You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise. I'll rise, I'll rise, only to be erased. If the pen is mightier than the sword, then the eraser must be the most powerful tool of them all. There was a time when men longed for battle just to be sung about in the songs that carried history. Those men knew that if they secured their narrative in history, they could secure their people's place in time. Because if your father was erased, then you had to start from the bottom. And while Drake sang the snazzy anthem, started from the bottom, now we're here, there is nothing glorious about every generation starting from the bottom. But starting from the bottom is what generations of Black women have had to do, each of them gone from the narrative. Every impact on society dismissed under the eraser's power. An erasure so woven into the systemic fabric of American society that even we don't know our own stories. And the world doesn't know that we, Black women, are the continuously erased factor in the formula for success. Now imagine, you bake a chocolate cake from scratch, and the outcome is absolute perfection. Later, you try to duplicate that cake, hoping for the same results, except this time you used a recipe card that was altered, and the magical ingredient was erased, and the cake was just not so good. Now, imagine a crucial component being continuously erased from history, leaving the world struggling to figure out why we just can't reproduce the perfect solution. Well, Black women have been that erased ingredient on America's recipe card. And because the ingredient has been repeatedly erased, the value of Black women has not been fully recognized, nor has it been optimized. And this erasure has allowed for things like pay inequity and discrimination in hiring to be common practice. And it not only negatively impacts Black women, but it also has a negative impact on communities and business. Because after all, if we continue to look for solutions we already have, we're wasting time and money. But I'll rise. Did you know that the Me Too movement was started by a Black woman? I'm actually talking about Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks, in the fall of 1944, Reese Taylor, a 24-year-old Black mother, was walking home from church when a car filled with white men pulled up next to her. They abducted her, and one by one, 6 men brutally raped her. The NAACP sent its best investigator to Abbeville to investigate. It was Rosa Parks. Picture it. A protest to shine a light on powerful men who use and abuse their power to sexually assault women and face no consequences. That sounds like the Me Too movement. But Parks shined a light on the sexual assaults against Black women. She started a committee and led a campaign, and that committee highlighted the many physical and sexual attacks perpetrated on Black women by white men. Parks single-handedly highlighted the many sexual assaults that went unnoticed. However, she is most known for her impact on the bus boycotts. What if what she'd done 10 years prior to that infamous day on the bus was highlighted as much as her impact on the bus boycotts? But it just wasn't. And history records her for her impact there. This is what erasure looks like. Some of you are shocked because every Black History Month, you heard the story of Rosa Parks and never knew her as a fierce investigator. You know the narrative. Old Auntie Rosa was tired, a tired old woman, too tired to give up her seat, as opposed to her being a powerful, feared, and fierce ingredient. As Chief Strategist Jackie Lee says, everyone loves making us aunties and sisters, but not so comfortable making us business partners. This type of erasure is called whitewashing. You see, history and those stories are not just about what has happened, it's also a narrative of what should happen. For example, when you think of those young men that heard the storytellers singing songs of their fathers as valiant warriors, those young men received a message. You too should be a valiant warrior like your fathers before you. When history changes a fierce warrior into a tired, old woman, it tells everyone like her their place. From Reese Taylor to Me Too was 73 years. What if Rosa Parks' exploit as a powerful, fierce investigator were touted as loudly as her impact on the bus boycott? Would the U.S. have had to wait 73 years for another Black woman, Tarana Burke, to shine a light on sexual assaults by powerful men? But I'll rise. In 2017, Alabama was thrust into the headlines when a judge running for a U.S. Senate seat had several women accuse him of initiating sexual encounters with them when they were as young as 14 years old. Despite the evidence confirming the allegations, the accused judge only lost by a 1.6% margin. Immediately, the media credited Black women for the judge's defeat. The Newsweek headline read, "Doug Jones wins because of Black women trying to save America." And then, one day, AL.com erased the magical ingredient. And the headline read, "How did Doug Jones win? Women push Senator-elect to victory." Though 63% of white women voted for the accused judge, the erasure happened, and now history can record that women, not Black women, saved Alabama from being represented by an alleged pedophile in the Senate. This type of erasure is called impact erasure. With the removal of one word, the impact of Black women is erased from the narrative. And the headline goes from, "Black women were a force for change in Alabama," to "Women and millennials push Senator-elect to victory." But I'll rise. But there is nothing more apparent in recent times than the hashtag erasure. Hashtag Sandra Bland. Hashtag Rekia Boyd. Hashtag Tatiana Jefferson. Hashtagging is what we do to make ourselves comfortable in inaction when Black women are physically erased from this earth. Do not turn what happens to me into a hashtag. Do something. Stop erasing Black women. But in order to truly step into transformational learning, we must be vulnerable enough to embrace our own stories. I couldn't always admit that I was being erased. It had become such a part of my own story that I incorporated the erasure into the lie that I told myself. The lie that I like being behind the scenes. Who wants to be out there on stage in the limelight in front of all of those people? But today, people call me from around the world to change their lives and transform their companies. And guess what? They ask me to do it on stage, in the limelight, in front of a bunch of people. and I love it. But I had to lie to myself to make my own erasure livable. Like the time when I led, created, and directed a production in college that got the attention of Alice Walker, but got me no credit. Just a pat on the back and instructions to go clean up, while a faculty member got credit. Erased. Or the time I led and initiated a time-saving and revenue-generating function for my organization and sat and watched division leadership get credit and a bonus. I wanted the credit, but I needed the bonus. That was financial erasure. And that financial erasure has impacts across generations. That money invested in retirement, stocks, and even real estate could have created generational wealth for my family. Wealth my family will never see. Erased. I could tell you the story of Jackie Lee, broker of multi-million-dollar deals, who once spent 3 years trying to save a brand. And once the brand was salvaged, others walked away with legacy, points, and money. And Jackie walked away with the satisfaction that the deal was her brainchild, and she was erased. Or the story of Sherry Riley, founder of Exponential Living, who once had a Fortune 50 company ask her for her input on a marketing campaign targeted towards the Black community. You know what they offered her? Brand recognition and no money, but offered her Black male counterparts $25,000, and she was erased. But the erasure stops here. Even as I prepared today, I wanted to make sure that Black women remained a part of the visual narrative as well. So everything from my makeup to my jewelry to my clothes to my shoes, all made by Black women. Because I tell the stories of Black women. Those who've had their stories whitewashed to fit a more comfortable societal story. Those who were financially erased. Those who were physically erased from this earth. I tell their stories because their stories need to be told, and you won't walk away angry or confused after hearing their stories. You will walk away feeling charged and ready to do your part to make sure that Black women remain a part of the narrative. Because it is our responsibility to make sure that everyone receives their proper place in the narrative. Margaret Terry Daniels, Lottie Mae Freeman, Margaret L. Humes, Catherine Clark, Jewel Giles, Clara Slater, DeWitt Brown, Lou Ann Riggs. I stand on their shoulders and I tell their stories, the stories of Black women. And as long as I do, you may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise. I'll rise, I'll rise, and I will not be erased. Thank you.